So first, the viewer should know what is AWS, right? Before pen testing AWS, right? So AWS is the leading cloud service provider, as we just saw, because they are the early movers. They have around 30 to 40% of the market captured. So most of the companies have already hosted their infrastructure from the on-premise to the cloud, and they have opted for AWS because, as I told you, the other cloud providers like Azure and GCP are a bit late, but that's why the AWS is from the starting. And what are the key services provided by AWS? So they provide storage services, compute services, networking services, and plethora of other services as well that we are going to be discussing in this podcast as well. So, and why companies are using the AWS? Because they don't have to worry about their infrastructure. So the infrastructure that AWS has created is already secured. And if they can just host their app on their infrastructure, then they don't have to worry about the infrastructure cost, right? They mostly have to not the infrastructure cost, but they don't have to worry about the infrastructure security.
It even works in web applications, right, where there are a lot of files and stuff, images are being actually stored in the S3 buckets.
That's why. So they only have to worry about the securing their application. So that's the separation there. So the infrastructure security, they don't have to worry about anything like that. And another thing is that AWS is a global service. The infrastructure of AWS is located in many regions, and under regions they have availability zones. So what is availability zones? Availability zone is like a data center. So let's take Mumbai region. So in Mumbai regions, they will have 2-3 availability zones. So that if let's suppose a disaster happens on one availability zone, then it means that the other availability zone is protected. So also in AWS, it's a very resilient service. Hence, whatever you save, it will be replicated across multiple regions or multiple availability zones. So if your data gets hampered in one of the regions, it will be already saved in other regions, so you can fetch it from there. So that's why this AWS is a resilient, scalable service offered by Amazon. So yeah, that's the basic overview of AWS. Let's move to the next slide. So why are companies shifting to AWS or in cloud particular, right? So these are some of the major issues that the companies are facing with their on-prem infrastructure. The first thing is that the legacy hardware infrastructure that they have is now old, and it is a hassle for them to operate them, because there are many times the hardware will fail, any disaster happens, it's the responsibility of the company, right? But that's why AWS or other cloud provider come into picture, and now they are shifting their all on-premise infrastructure to the cloud, so that now it's the
responsibility
of the cloud
provider to take care of all of this stuff.
The other thing is that the infrastructure that AWS has created is highly scalable and available. So as I told you, how it's available and scalable because of the regions and the availability zones that they have created. That is the reason. Other thing is that it is cost effective as well, because let's suppose a company has hosted their website on their on-premise infrastructure. So they have purchased all the hardware that they need. But let's suppose the traffic is not coming to their websites. So all this hardware is spared, right? Like no capacity is being used. But Amazon is like pay-as-you-go model. So it means that you basically, if the website is getting a lot of traffic, then you can scale and pay accordingly. And if the website is not getting that much of traffic, then you can scale down
as per your needs.
So you don't have to be pay for the cost that is not needed for the spare hardware that you had on your on-premise systems, right? So that's another thing. It's highly cost effective. Another thing is that it provides automation as well as efficiency, so that in a matter of minutes you can spin up your infrastructure. So that's what I have also done using this. So the lab I have created is fully automated. So yeah, that's how you can automate to create infrastructure on AWS. So it's very easy to do that.
That's great.
Yeah. Let's move on to the services that are offered by AWS. So these are some of the services, but as I told you, there are plethora of services that are provided by AWS. I think it's more than hundreds, but these are some of the major ones. And in this podcast, we will be focusing on IAM, EC2 and S3. So we will start with that, and in later podcast, we will be discussing about other services that AWS offers. So yeah, let's start with the first one, which is IAM, which is the Identity and Access Management Service. So this is one of the, I would say that the most important service that a penetration tester need to know to get started in AWS service, because this is the service that handles the permissions part.
Okay.
So if the permissions are secure, it means the infrastructure or the app is secure, right?
Yes.
So that's why we have to be very careful, or the students or the learners have to learn this IAM in detail. Yeah, right. The identity and access management. Then we have EC2. EC2 is the cloud computing service provided by AWS, which are the virtual machines that you can just spin up on the AWS infrastructure. So EC2 is just like a virtual machine that is hosted on a AWS infrastructure. Then we have the S3 service, which is the object storage service. So if you want to save files or your data or logs somewhere, then you can opt for S3 service of AWS, and it is a cost-effective service as well, this S3 service. Then we have the RDS service. So RDS is the relational database services. So let's suppose that in your on-premises environment, you have your databases, right? Oracle, MySQL, or any other. So, but you again, they have their own learning curve. So that's why if a team or the company don't want to be go specific on that software system, they can opt for RDS service. So RDS service also offers the Oracle MySQL database services. So you don't have to worry about the security of that part.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, that's actually good, because you are investing, already you have AWS and they are securing all of the stuff for you.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then we have the another services, which is Lambda. Lambda is the serverless computing service offered by AWS. So let's suppose you want to automate some things in infrastructure. So you can do that with Lambda. So Lambda is like a small piece of code running on AWS infrastructure. So that's why we are saying serverless computing, because you don't have to worry about the infrastructure. Like let's suppose we take the EC2 service, right?
Yes.
So if we spin up a EC2 instance, then we have to set up the EC2 system for our web application, right? Yeah. But when we take the Lambda, it has all the environment ready on AWS. You just have to write your piece of code and it will run. And using that, you can just automate stuff. Then we have the VPC service, which is a virtual private cloud. It's a isolated network in cloud.
Okay.
Right? It's a virtual private cloud, right? As the name suggests. It's a isolated virtual private cloud that is only dedicated to you. Okay. No one can interfere in that. Okay. So it's so if you want to set up anything related to networking, you have to learn about VPC, which is virtual private cloud service.
Oh, okay. So these were some of the these were the major services that were offered by AWS. Can you so a lot of folks, they are in the Active Directory stuff of things, right? So they are pen testing Active Directories, but now, as you said, that we are moving to cloud. So as you just indicated, there was an identity access management. So what all things do a user or a pen tester needs to be aware about when he's moving to client, or how is it different from the normal pen testing scenario?
So it's not that different. I think
because a lot of folks they kind of are scared, or you get it right, because this cloud is being introduced all of a sudden. So what's your lookout?
Yeah, as I said that it's only the infrastructure that you are using, but all the operating system or all the software solutions that you already have, you are just migrating it to the AWS.
Okay.
So using AWS as well, you can set up your Active Directory environment. So but the security of the Active Directory environment is not depend on AWS. It's your responsibility to secure Active Directory environment. It's the infrastructure, the below infrastructure that AWS has to take care of, not you.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. So these are some of the services. So let's look at the AWS Cloud Pentesting. Okay. So generally, when we are talking about testing AWS environments or cloud environments in general, then we are mainly focusing on the misconfigurations that can happen in a cloud environment. So generally AWS don't have any vulnerability, they generally don't have the vulnerabilities. I mean to say that their infrastructure is secure.
Yes.
But it's the responsibility of the company or the client. So to make this infrastructure, all the configurations that the AWS provide to set it up in a proper manner. If they are setting these things in AWS in misconfigured way, then their environments are going to be hacked, right? So yeah, when we are talking about the cloud pen testing, we are generally testing the misconfigurations that are present in their company's client's AWS infrastructure.
So this is more of like the human errors, right?
Yeah.
So that is why that's called a misconfiguration.
Yeah. That's why. So in this podcast we will be focusing on the misconfigurations that can happen in IAM, S3 and EC2 instance services. And apart from that, we have other mainly two types of testing that is available in AWS, which is white box testing and black box testing. So white box testing is where the client will give us the credentials of just a normal user, and using the privileges of the normal user, we can see what services that user can access. Are there privilege escalation vectors that this normal user can perform by exploiting the misconfigurations, if there are any. That is what white box testing is. When we talk about black box testing, in black box testing, we don't have anything. So client will come to us, they will say that, hey, this is my company, and we have our environment set up in AWS infrastructure. Can you please pen test it and find any issues that they are present in their environment, right? So we don't have anything. So how do we go about this in black box testing? So in black box testing, first we look for the subdomains of the company's websites, and maybe we look for OSINT. We will apply OSINT techniques, like are there any leaked credential in the GitHub, or maybe they have leaked credential in the dark web. That can also happen. Apart from that, we also have another type of thing where let's suppose we find some of the applications that are public facing of the company, right? And we know that they are running on AWS infrastructure, right? So we try to find our way from their public facing website to the AWS infrastructure. So these are some of the ways we can pen test the AWS cloud.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.